Hello everyone, welcome to another video on Indian ethos and management. In this video, we will be looking at the nature and significance of Indian ethos. First, we will be looking at the value-centric versus the tool-centric approach of Indian ethos. Second, we will be looking at the concept called work is worship. And third, we will also be looking at the significance of learning Indian ethos in management, or why it is important to know about Indian ethos in management. The first one is the value-centric rather than the tool-centric approach. The statement highlights a fundamental difference between Indian ethos and management and the conventional Western management approaches that we have heard of till this point of time. First is emphasis on value and character over tools. Indian ethos actually believes that the character of the decision maker is more important than the sophistication of the managerial tools that he normally uses. While the tools actually, or the techniques or the analytics or the metrics are useful, rather they are secondary. What truly determines is the quality of the management is the values, integrity, and ethical maturity of the leader. That is what the Indian ethos believes in. In contrast, modern management education often prioritizes on the performance indicators, the efficiency models, and the technological solutions, whereas the Indian ethos argues that tools without values can lead to unethical outcomes even if they improve efficiency, which is very important in today's parlance. Second is the difference in core managerial questions, whereas the Western management asks which tool will increase efficiency, productivity, or profit. The focus is rather on the outcomes, the speed, the optimization, and measurable results, whereas the Indian ethos asks, is this decision ethically right and socially responsible? The focus here is on the moral correctness, the long term societal impact, and fairness, even if the decision is not profitable in the short run. The Indian ethos does not focus on short term profitability, rather, it focuses on the long term profitability and long term sustainability of the organization. So, this does not reject efficiency, but when we say that it focuses not on the short term profitability, it does not mean that it rejects efficiency, but rather it places ethics before efficiency. Then tools are means and not ends. In Indian ethos, technology, data, AI systems, matrices are only mere instruments. They should serve the human welfare and not dominate or exploit. For example, data analytics should not violate privacy. Automation should not ignore the human dignity or should not replace human intellect. Cost cutting should not exploit labor. These tools are valuable, but only when it is aligned for ethical purpose. Ethics guides the use of technology and systems. Indian ethos insists that ethics must govern how technology is designed and used. Decisions should balance profit, people, and the planet. We are talking about sustainability more in today's scenario. This perspective highly relevant in today because, as I already told you, we talk about ESG and sustainability. We're talking about corporate governance. We're talking about responsible AI and data use. So without ethics, technology can become destructive. Rather, it can be disastrous rather than developmental. So decision making, which is anchored in dharma, that is the next concept when we talk about value centric rather than tool centric. At the heart of the Indian ethos is dharma, which means righteousness or righteous conduct, moral duty, acting in harmony with society and nature. A decision based on dharma considers is it fair? Is it just? Does it harm stakeholders or the future generations? Thus, the management becomes a moral responsibility, not just a technical function. So, in essence, Indian ethos does not reject modern management tools. It humanizes them. It teaches that efficiency without ethics is incomplete, and the true success lies in decisions that are ethical, socially responsible, and aligned with dharma. So the managerial implication of this is Managers guided by Indian ethos will avoid unethical standards, as we already saw that Indian ethos lies, the heart and soul of Indian ethos is on ethical standards and ethical practices. It balances profitability with fairness. You can make profit, but sometimes it can lead to unfairness. But Indian ethos stresses upon fairness rather than profitability. And takes responsibility for the social consequences, which is very relevant as the world is moving towards, even corporates are moving towards ESG and sustainable practices. So even long years before that we are the Western philosophy spoke about that, we have already rooted our courses on ESG and sustainable practices. The second concept is work is worship, or it the Indian ethos calls it as Kaya Vera Kailasa, or in Bhagavad Gita it is called as Nishkama Karma. So the principle of Kayavera Kailasa expresses the core idea of Indian ethos as work is sacred when performed with the right attitude. It means work is to be considered as worship, just like how we go to a place of worship and devote ourselves to the deity over there or to the god over there. Work should also be considered as worship. It teaches that work should not be seen merely as a means to earn money, but also a higher purpose that contributes to the personal growth and social welfare. So it is not just your own growth which you have to keep in mind, but you should also be contributing to the society through your work. So work is more than a source of income. According to this principle, it is not work is not limited to your salary, the incentives, the promotions. Instead, work should be viewed as a moral responsibility or a dharma. That's what I when I said. Through your work, you should be contributing to the welfare of the society. You're not just focusing on your own good, but you're talking about the societal good. Earning money is necessary, but it should not be the sole or the highest objective of your work. Work as a self-expression, duty and service. Kaivera Kailasa emphasizes that work reflects one's inner values and character. It is an opportunity to express yourself and excellence. It is a duty towards society, not just as an obligation to the employer. So this aligns closely with the idea of seva bhava, or the spirit of service in the Indian philosophy. We always talk about the Indian philosophy always speaks about seva, or devotion, or your contribution. So your work should also be a continuation of your seva. It should, it talks about the dignity of all forms of work, or we talk about the dignity of labor. So the key implication of this principle is that no work is inferior or superior. Managerial, technical, operational, everything is equally respectable or equally responsible for the growth of an organization. We talk about organization growth. So each and every person who works in an organization has an important role to play, whether he is a mere office attendant or he is the CEO. Everybody has their own part to play in the organization success. So it talks about the dignity of labor, or every work is important. So respect is based on sincerity and effort and not the job title. So that is very important. So whatever work you're doing, if you're doing it selflessly or you're doing it with purpose and devotion, then it earns you the respect. And that is what is more important than the title itself. This reduces the hierarchy based ego and promotes mutual respect within the organization. Work is worship. We've already talked about the Nishkama Karma, or the work is worship. The core message is that when work is performed with sincerity, devotion, dedication, and integrity, it also becomes an act of worship. So, this does not mean religious ritual, but doing one's best without selfish motive, being honest and responsible, focusing on excellence rather than rewards. So, this idea closely relates to the Karma Yoga in the Bhagavad Gita, where performing duty without attachment leads to results. So, Nishkama Karma also means that without expecting anything, when you do your duty, it also leads to your ultimate result. So, in a sense, Kaivera Kailasa teaches that the quality of intention behind work matters more than the nature of the work itself. When work is done with commitment, ethics, and a service mindset, it elevates both individual and the organization. The key implications of this concept is that employees find meaning and pride in their work. Quality improves because work is done with devotion. So when you are doing a work with ultimate devotion, or when you're doing it selflessly, then it can reduce absenteeism, it can reduce corruption, it can also reduce negligence, or you become one with the organization. The classic example is Tata Group's emphasis on dignity of labor and ethical work culture. Amul's cooperative model, where farmers treat work as a service to society, are all based on the underlying principle of Indian concepts of dignity of labor. Now, what is the significance of Indian ethos in organizations? First one is it promotes belongingness, or the parivar concept. The parivar means family. So Indian ethos focuses on organization as one family. We are all members of one large family. So it views organization not merely as legal or economic entity, rather it is a shared collective where every member of the family contributes to the growth and development of that family. So employees, as we already saw in the previous video, are not treated as just resources or mere resources, but you are treated as one of the members of the family. So the difference between the Indian concept and the Western concept is the in the Western view, when you enter into an organization as an employee, it is a contract between the employer and the employee, whereas in the Indian concept, it is a family relationship. Here, in the Western view, it is individual goals, whereas in the Western views, it is the collective goal. In the case of Western philosophy, it is hire and fire model where it mostly works, whereas in the case of Indian philosophy, it is the care and the development. The second significance of Indian ethos in organization is the emotional and psychological bonding. So the Parivar approach also creates an emotional attachment for an employee with the organization. So when there is an emotional attachment, then it naturally leads to the trust between the management and the employee. When there is a trust, when everything is rooted on that trust, then it leads to high employee morale and commitment. Now, the managerial implication is that the employees go beyond the job description. That is, when you are part of the organization, or when you feel like you are part of that family, then you go beyond, you go the extra mile for the growth of the organization beyond your own the time frame of working from 9 to 5, or just doing what is given in your job description, but you're contributing towards the growth of your family, so you go the extra mile. Now that reduces the attrition rates, or even it brings in a strong organizational culture. The Infosys indicate, you can look at a lot of examples from the Indian companies like the Infosys, which focuses on employee welfare, transparent leadership, long-term relationships. TVS Group focuses on strong people-centric culture and ethical governance. Larsen and Toubro L&T focus on employee development and loyalty. All these things are rooted on the Indian philosophies of uh, organization. And thirdly, it brings in long-term organizational sustainability. The Indian ethos discourages, as we have already seen, it focuses on long-term profitability rather than short-term profit obsessions or exploitative practice. When you have a short-term profit motive, then it can lead to exploitative practices. Whereas when you're talking about long-term, sustainable growth, then you're not just focusing on your own organization, but you're talking about the societal welfare. You're talking about not just your own profits, the organization profit, but you're talking about all the stakeholders concerned. So it promotes long-term relationships, ethical continuity, and sustainable growth. So when employees feel like they're part of the family, then they are always there to protect the organizational interest. They uphold the values even during the crisis and act as the brand ambassadors of the organization. So the Indian ethos transforms work into worship and organizations into families, creating not just profitable firms but purposeful institutions. Thank you all. With that, we end the second video. We'll see with more videos like this in very soon.